Hey, good morning, guys. It's John Graff from Graff Real Estate here in Los Angeles, California. And today's pretty brief webinar is going to be a quick chat about the Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure, otherwise known as CAR Form AVID. Your AVID. For those of you newer agents, you'll often hear agents say, "I need to do my AVID." This will be a great time for us to do our AVID. So when you hear that, they're talking about their agent visual inspection disclosure. And you may be asking yourself, what is the purpose of this? Well, California law requires it, for the most part, that real estate brokers or their agents conduct a reasonably competent and diligent visual inspection of the normally accessible areas of properties offered for sale. So it's notable what California does not require the agent to inspect, including areas that are not normally accessible, like the attic and under the home, areas off-site, public records or permits, or common areas of planned developments, condominiums, things of that sort. And so it is also not meant to replace a buyer's physical property inspection or any other inspection that they may choose to have of the property that they're buying. This is really only for the agent to point out and memorialize on paper what they see in the property visually that may or may not be defects in the property. So let's just finally I want to point out, so on the bottom of page 1 it does require the buyer and seller's initials, just so that everyone is clear about the purpose and the limitations of this AVID form. So on to page 2, let's discuss some of the items. So if this was for a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, then you would just note on the first line which number unit this AVID was for, because you would be completing a different AVID per unit that you're inspecting. The second line is the name of the firm that's performing the inspection. Remember, this isn't your name, it's the name of the actual company that you work for. So in this case, it's Graff Real Estate. You're going to put the date, the time, and the weather conditions. Luckily, in SoCal, for the most part, it's going to be sunny and clear skies or some iteration of that. Other people's present, pretty clear. Just write down who else is there. You don't necessarily have to write their name, just their title. So the listing agent and 2 inspectors were here at this time. So then you're going to get into the actual visual inspection, and so it's fairly easy. You would think you just note issues that you see: a stain in the carpet, or a, some mark, a black mark on the wall. Those are things that you would point out. So when you don't see issues, rather than leaving the space blank or not filling it in, you should write that you notice no issues, um, because otherwise it can be assumed that you just didn't inspect that area. So if you write no issues noticed, then it's very clear that you did inspect it. You just discovered nothing in there. If in smaller homes, there's not going to be these rooms that exist, so you would just write NA. I think that's better than leaving it blank and leaving open to interpretation whether you actually conducted the inspection or not. So it's better to put NA or no issues noticed, rather than sending in an AVID that is blank. Also, nail holes in walls. I think that's just always prudent to include, especially if you're going through a home that's staged or lived in, because as soon as the sellers leave, any paintings or photos or or televisions, attached to the wall are going to come down, and when the buyers move in, they're going to notice holes in the walls, no matter how small. So you just want to make sure that you do include that. That's always prudent. The other thing I want to mention is that you don't want to get into diagnosing issues. That's not your job. Your job is to point out issues that you are noticing. So, for instance, here we noticed a dirty AC vent. We don't go into speculating why it's dirty, or this hole in the ceiling covered with paper. We don't speculate why there's a hole, why it's covered with paper. That's not our job. And in the instance that we are wrong about that, it could open us up to a lot of legal problems. So, just for a risk management purpose, describe what you see. Don't try to diagnose any problems. So just continue the rest. And, like I said, this was a small condo. So there was, bathrooms, but then it's not going to be this bathroom number 3 and number 4 and number 5, but in the bigger houses around LA, you will have that, and around Southern California, you will have that. So at the bottom of page 2 of 2, remember buyer's initials there, seller's initials there, and we're on to page 3. And this is the signature page. It's also just the wrap up of other areas of the property. So this final point I want to point out is that in the middle of the page, there is a requirement that the person conducting the AVID needs to sign here. It is very often that I get this form back and it's missing that signature, or it is signed there and then the agent forgets, oh, they also have to sign here. So remember that if this is your AVID and you are filling it out, then you are responsible for signing in the middle and also at the bottom. And also remember that it says here real estate broker. It does say now in parentheses firm who performed the inspection. That's for the name of the firm or the company. In our case, Graff Real Estate. Here is the opportunity for your name, and that's where your signature goes right there. Same thing for here. It's the company name, real estate company, and then the agent's name goes there. Agent's name there. And then buyer and seller there. And that's it. That's page 3 of 3. So like I said, the AVID is fairly simple. Just want to keep in mind those issues that I pointed out. So I don't see any questions in the queue, but if anyone has some, I'll give you a couple seconds to throw them at me. So yeah, just as long as you guys keep those tips in mind, those AVIDs should keep coming back looking nice and clean, and we won't have to send them back for additional work. I'm not seeing any questions in the queue, so I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning for this pretty brief overview of the agent visual inspection disclosure. Again, thanks for joining us. John Graff here, Graff Real Estate, and we'll see you next time. Bye.